Kia ora, talofa, namaste, haere mai, and welcome to the Niche Case Variety Show, where we like to get a bit weird about Aotearoa sport. We do love Aotearoa sport, though. Do not get that mistaken. As weird and as funky as we get, we are only here in service in honor of Aotearoa sport, and we like to, I don't know, what's the cover the bases metaphor for cricket wildcard? Slightly more applicable to a Kiwi audience.
As in like cover the bases and is bases loaded in baseball kind of. Yeah, the version of that. I don't know. You can only have two batters out there at once. We're stacking the batting lineup. I don't know.
We're running threes and we're chasing the ball all the way to the boundary. How about that? Wow. Shout out Bazball. And shout out to Aotearoa Cricket for that kind of representation. We are the Niche Case, theniche-case.com. We love Aotearoa sport. We're always writing about Aotearoa sport. And it's probably the only place in Aotearoa media where you can find yarns about the White Ferns, the Blackcaps, junior football ferns, Sean Marks's basketball, mahi, Kiwi-NRL focus, spotlight thingy-majigs. Big yarns, always to be found. Flying Kiwis, Wellington Phoenix, deep yarns as well. We're always here for Aotearoa sport, and our website, we update it fairly frequently. Most days we're putting up something fresh and new about Aotearoa sport, so make sure you're tuned into the website, theniche-case.com. The best way to support all our mahi, our written mahi, our podcast kōrero as well, is through Patreon, patreon.com/our niche case, our niche case. But that's only if you're in a position to support us and share with us your hard-earned cash. That is a monthly kind of donation service. There is an extra podcast every week for the Patreon whānau, usually revolving around cricket. So if that is your buzz, that is the best way to support us, only if you can though, because there's many other ways to support the Niche Case as well. Just checking in on the website every day, telling a friend, following the podcast closely, subscribing to all the podcast platforms is handy. Subscribe to the podcast platforms, however you get it, Apple, Spotify, YouTube as well. Just tune in, tell a friend. That's all we can ask for, but there is an extra option as well through Patreon, patreon.com/our niche case, our niche case. And we also deliver an email banger every Monday and Friday evening. We put all our website content, all the links to our big yarns, as well as all the links to all the podcast content in that email dispatch. And then we whip up a few more paragraphs each. Yesterday, we sent out our Monday dispatch. The wildcard broke down Tauihi basketball, as well as some local football, domestic football, Chatham Cup and Kate Shepherd Cup. I covered the cross code excellence of Aotearoa athletes. We had little nuggets like Caitlin Vaha-Akolo playing for the Auckland Storm Wahine rugby team on Saturday, then playing for Point Chev Pirates in the Women's Rugby League final on Sunday. Didn't see that anywhere else in the Aotearoa media, but that's the shit we love, because we love Aotearoa sport and we love those little nuggets, and we always share those nuggets as part of our email dispatch via Substack, thenichecase.substack.com. Enter your email address into, I guess it's usually a little box there, a little text box, and you sign up, and then every Monday and Friday evening, there it is, the Niche Case, delivered straight to you, and you can get off social media. Just check your email inbox, all good. No whacken furries. We start our podcast with a dose of mindfulness wildcard. I think I need to mellow out here. I'm stumbling all over my words and a little bit hot, a little bit flustered, a little bit bothered. So deliver some mindfulness just to get me in the zone.
Yeah. So this one I didn't pick up from a book or a Google search for mindfulness Zen quotes or anything like that. I got it from a movie. I watched a movie. Well, I watch a lot of movies, but I watched in particular Fritz Lang's Metropolis from 1927, a bit of silent German expressionist cinema, because it's not only the Aotearoa sports that we keep weird and funky. And there was a line in that movie that went, actually they repeated it a couple of times, but the line in there that I wrote down, I thought that's a cool line. It said, "The mediator between head and hands must be the heart."
That hit me straight in the heart. The mediator between head and hands is the heart. I've come to learn that heart perspective is also your soul. Like, that's your soulful energy. And the more you can get out of your ego and out of your mind and into your soul energy, the better. And if you go through your heart, through your soul, then your actions are going to be better as well, right? Because that's the mediation process.
Yeah, like in the movie, it's very like sort of anti-industrial capitalist kind of thing. So when they're talking about the head, they're talking about the sort of like the upper class, and then the hands are like the working class, and then the heart is the thing that links them, because there has to, in their case, it's just like there has to be a link, because otherwise there's no link. But I just like the quotes from taking it further, and you just think about like the head is your thoughts, like your thought process. That is also where the ego comes in, as you rightly state. The hands are your actions, and then the heart is the bit that determines your thoughts and your actions, right? Like that's, and if it's not, then your hands are like, your actions are just responding to your ego being bruised or whatever, or getting like, yeah, emotions, and also just getting devious and ripping other people off, sort of thing, because you're not thinking about like what's best for everyone. You're thinking about what's best for me. How do I win, kind of thing. And if you just don't have that, you don't have that process if you allow your heart to /soul/ I mean, that's also where the morality comes in, like this sort of sense of right and wrong kind of thing, because you can use your head to like to argue anything to your point if you really want to, but your heart will tell you pretty simply one way or another whether this is the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do. And if you act in accordance with that, you act justly, right? Like that's how you do it. And if everyone does that, if everyone lets their heart dictate what their thoughts and their actions do, you don't have so many problems in society, do you?
We are channeling our Aotearoa sporting heart and soul to come up with the lead segment of the variety show Wildcard. What
Always.
have you been thinking hard about the most? What have you been pondering? What is something that you have dwelled upon to share a succinct, important Aotearoa sporting message?
Yeah, I wrote a thing about the Wellington Phoenix the other day. It started off as just going to be a segment for the Substack and just about their Australian Cup win. And then I kept going, and then it ended up just being a full article. And what I realized writing that was just how like confident I am about the Wellington Phoenix, at least for this season, because this season could be Ufuk Tala's last as the manager of the Wellington Phoenix. It's the last of his current contract, at least, the fourth year that he'll be in charge. Maybe he'll re-sign, maybe he won't. But either way, this upcoming season is shaping to be something special for the Knicks. It could potentially be like the culmination of everything Tala's been working for. Because you remember the pandemic hit about like 3/4 of the way through his first campaign. The next two seasons, he's had to be based largely in Australia. This will be the first season, all things go to plan, no extra pandemics or anything. First season in which he'll actually have like a full slate of home games, including potentially in the playoffs if they do that well. Remember that first season, the Knicks had their best ever regular season finish, just sort of like fell apart a little bit because they had to finish the season in the bubble, and then they weren't in the best form come the finals, and et cetera, et cetera. They still made the finals last season. They only missed out the year before on goal difference, despite the fact that they've been living in Australia the whole time. Very well poised. Things are only coming more into their favor. There's no way they're going to have the injury list that they had last season. They've also recruited really well. Like you got Costa Barbarouses looks great. Steven Ugarkovic is a tidy pickup. You've got imports Bozidar Krajev and Jan Sase. Both look pretty handy. There's a number 9 potentially to follow. And if they do sign a number 9 and import number 9, it'll be the first time that Ufuk Tala has been the coach in which they've used all 5 of their import spots. So that's also a bonus. Like there's clearly they're not cutting any corners there either in order to maximize this season. Not to mention that there's a core of players at this club who have been playing for Tele for several seasons, bringing continuity, familiarity, know exactly what the coach expects, can like relay that out in the park. Pretty much what I'm saying here is that all roads lead to Rome, and all signs are that the Wellington Phoenix should be in for one of their best ever seasons, I would suggest. They're already on an Aussie Cup run. I'm not going to make any predictions or anything stupid here. I'm just saying absolutely full of confidence with whatever this team is up to, as long as Ufuk Talay is there. And there's full trust in the direction they're heading in, and excited. Just want to see the season start, because I genuinely think the Wellington Phoenix could be up to something pretty handy.
In keeping with all Aotearoa football matters, to be honest, you mentioned recruit number 9, and that just sparked a thought in my head about Mambo number 5. So shout out Lou Beggar for the that old school Mambo number 5, little bit of a jam, because that just popped in my head. And my leading hot take here is that the Blackcaps they're just back in a groove. And I'm a big fan of Gold Rush on the telly. Love a bit of Gold Rush, love a bit of like the Alaska living off the grid stuff as well. And anytime the tractors, the heavy machinery in Gold Rush, like the track always comes off the, I don't know what it's called, the track that keeps your bulldozer or fucking forklift moving forward. It always comes off. Then the mechanic shows up and they jink, they wiggle it, they hoist it, and then they shuffle it around, and it just slips back into place. And that feels like the Blackcaps right now in limited overs cricket. They did have that. They've been kind of crap at Test cricket for the first 6 months of the year. Lost some home tests in Aotearoa last summer. Went to England, got swept, which wasn't good. And we obviously have to balance out quality of opponent. They've been facing Ireland, Scotland, Netherlands. They went to the Caribbean and faced a better West Indies team in tough conditions. All of which is to say, this Blackcaps digger, it's just got its track back on the groove. It's just back in alignment. This digger isn't the best digger in the world right now, because there have been some issues in the Test cricket, but the key thing for the Blackcaps is that their issues in Test cricket, specifically that England series, didn't lead to any more stinky vibes. They flushed that dunny. They got back into winning games, sure, against weaker opponents, but you definitely don't want to get swept by England in Test cricket and then also suffer defeats to Ireland, Scotland, Netherlands, or the West Indies. So I think the fact that the Blackcaps have been winning games, they won that series in West Indies, they won both series in West Indies, T20 International and ODIs, they're just back in a groove. And for right now, that is fantastic, because it's a massive couple of months coming up for the Blackcaps. T20 World Cup, massive ODI series against Australia and India. It's going to be a fun time, and I'm just kind of thankful, grateful that the Blackcaps have just found a nice little spot right now. The stinky vibes didn't continue after that Test series in England, and they just got back to their mahi. Players getting better, winning games, a lot of positive energy in that camp as well. Deliver a stat for us, Wildcard.
Well, how about a Blackcap stat on the back of that? So I think also one of the other notable things of the Blackcaps is getting a lot better on their limited overs tour is that a lot of the guys who struggled against England also came into some form afterwards. And I got a fantastic stat here that I dug up for the Substacker on Monday, and I just want to give it as much exposure as possible, partly because I found it, but also because it's just a great stat. Tim Southee has 197 ODI wickets. He just took 7 of those, the most recent 7 of those, averaging 15s against the West Indies in that series. And there is an Australian series coming up, and there's plenty more ODI cricket following on from that. He may well hit that 200 milestone there, 200 ODI wickets. At some point some point before the end of the year, he's definitely going to get there. Tim Southee also has 347 Test wickets, and he has a genuine chance of overtaking Richard Hadlee for the New Zealand record somewhere down the line, albeit in way more games. He's actually already played 2 more Test matches than Paddles ever did, and he is 84 wickets behind him. However, at the very least, he's surely going to catch Daniel Vettori for second with 362. There are only 36 men worldwide to have taken 300 Test wickets in history. Of those 36 men, 18 of them also have 200 ODI wickets. So, not all of them got, some of them didn't even get the chance to play ODI cricket, let alone a full slate of it, but still, that's their problem. Tim Southee is on the verge of becoming the 19th man in that 300-200 club, but that's not the fantastic part. The fantastic part is that Tim Southee, of course, also has 114 2020 international wickets, which is second all time behind only Shakib Al Hassan. Of the 18 dudes in that 300 test wickets, 200 ODI wickets club, the top T20 international wicket takers, from those 18 guys, the top T20 international wicket takers, it's actually a tie between Daniel Vettori and Mitchell Johnson with 38 each. Like, not only none of them got to 100, but none of them have even got to 50. Tim Southee is on the verge of doing something that nobody else has ever done in cricketing history by reaching 300 test wickets, 200 ODI wickets, 100 2020 international wickets. He's 3 ODI wickets away from doing so. Nobody else in history has done that. Not bad for a lad from Mongakadamia.
That makes Tim Southee the best bowler ever.
As far as I'm concerned, I can only agree. 1 out of 1.
I have said Trent Boult is the best bowler right now in the world across all 3 formats. So
those
maybe
2 things can both be true concurrently,
Trent Boult, best left arm ever. Tim Southee, best right arm ever. There we go. My stat wildcard is all about Suzie Bates. Fantastic. One of the best female cricketers the world has ever seen. Suzie Bates is first for T20 international runs all time worldwide. And she is 4th for ODI runs all time worldwide. However, last year, Suzie Bates averaged 14.3 in T20 international cricket and 11.4 in ODI cricket. Was a niggly year for Suzie Bates. She did have, I think she's had ongoing shoulder issues during that phase. But this year, Suzie Bates is averaging 37.4 in T20 cricket, 40 in ODI cricket. And that means Suzie Bates is back to her best, which, given what I said about her being first in T20 international runs and 4th in ODI runs, if Suzie Bates is back to her best, and I also believe Sophie Devine is the best T20 international cricketer in the world right now, one of the best cricketers in the world right now. Suzie Bates back to her best, Sophie Devine. At least the White Ferns have that, for whatever other bull cucker floats around the White Ferns, at least the White Ferns have Suzie Bates back at her world-class, greatest ever best, as well as Sophie Devine, who is also fantastic. Deep in the mangroves wildcard, what have you stumbled across in that little patch? The estuary, low tide, there's always a patch of built-up sand that just pops out of the estuary. What is on that island?
Well, I got some Champions League stuff amongst the Flying Kiwis, so I'm also tempted to chuck up because Suzie Bates came up in some of my research for the Substack thing on Monday, because I was writing about Gillian Harmon playing a game for the Southern Hoiho in the Tauhi basketball. And one of the cool things about Jill Harmon is that she played at the 2008 Olympics for the Tall Ferns. It was the last time I think the Tall Ferns made the Olympics. I was looking at who else is in, because I was going to say there's someone from the 2008 Olympic squad playing in this thing. And then they're like, wait, Micaela Cox played then too. So there's 2 of them. Then I was looking at their squad to see who else was in there. Who else should be in that squad but Suzie Bates? Went to the Olympics as a basketballer, all-time leading 2020 international run scorer. She's done a fair bit. But anyway, on to the Champions League stuff. So heaps of stuff about Conference League qualifiers in Flying Kiwis lately, following, Max Mata and Nando Pinecker at Sligo Rovers and Joe Bell with Brondby. But now it's Champions League time. Marko Stamenic has the chance to become the first Kiwi male to feature in the Champions League proper, not qualifiers, but in the actual Champions League, since Chris Killen in 2008. And Killen himself was just the 4th all-time from New Zealand to play in that competition after Kim Wright, Winton Rufer, Danny Hay preceded him. Marko Stamenic's Copenhagen team, they are 90 minutes away from the group stage after a 2-1 win over Trabzonspor of Turkey in their playoff first leg. What's more is that Stamenic actually made his continental debut off the bench late in that match. He's on the fringes of their first team, but if they did make the group stage of the Champions League, and if they don't win this playoff, then they'll still drop into the Europa League group stages. That's how close they are. I think he would probably still make a Champions League wider squad, so he'd still be available to play in that to potentially become the fifth fella to join that little club. They've just got to survive a very tough second leg in Turkey on Thursday morning. In order to do that, the Women's Champions League has tended to be more prosperous, with New Zealand featuring Rhea Percival actually played in a final back in the day. I think it was 2012, I think that was. And Ellie Riley, for a long time, kept up a Kiwi presence year after year when she was playing with Rosenborg. Didn't have anyone last year, though, and broke a long streak. No one from New Zealand played in the Women's Champions League last season, mostly because they changed the format, went to a group stage, which meant only half as many teams actually qualified, which made it very tricky. But there are a few candidates this time. Micaela Moore won't be there. She featured prominently for Glasgow Rovers in their qualifiers over the weekend, but a loss to Roma knocked them out. Same deal for Indy Riley, who's Fortuna Høring of Denmark. They pretty much just rode a poor start and a 2-0 loss to Eintracht Frankfurt. Pretty even game, but they were 2-0 down after 20 minutes, and that was the difference. However, Vic Hessen's Rangers overcame Ferencváros of Hungary and then PAOK of Greece to progress to the final round of qualifiers. And in that final round of qualifiers, Daisy Cleverley's HB Køge will also enter the stakes as reigning Danish champions. So still, 2 New Zealanders knocked out of Champions League contention in the last week, but 3 ballers still in with a chance of UCL footy this season. Marco Stamenic, Vic Hessen, Daisy Cleverley. Let's go.
It's some Champions League prestige on this little estuary island somewhere in the back blocks.
You never know what you're going to find, eh? You never know what you're going to find.
Around the corner, we'll take the kayak for a paddle. Round the corner, deeper down the estuary, deeper into the mangroves, we've got a bunch of rather large humans who play rugby league in the NRL and also happen to be many of the best players in their positions and for the best teams. Housekeeping note here, because last week's variety show I did lead off with the Aotearoa trinity of middle forwards: Jesse Bromwich, Nelson Asafa-Solomona, and Brandon Smith, each of whom is uniquely excellent. I didn't, however, take into account that Nelson Asafa-Solomona is currently being deployed as an edge forward for the Melbourne Storm, which is even more impressive. And he will return to the middle at some point, I'm fairly certain. But my middle forward trinity was a bit wonky last week because Nelson Asafa-Solomona, his last 2 games have been playing on the right edge, where he has been absolutely destructive and fantastic. I'm just going to break down wildcard, the best NRL teams right now. All of them are either in the top 8 or competing for the top 8. And I even whipped up a Kiwi team, Kiwi-NRL team, solely consisting of these teams competing for top 8 positions. Remember, the Warriors do not represent Aotearoa Rugby League in no way, shape, or form. And in case you missed it, the Aotearoa Kiwis team that faced Tonga earlier this year featured no Warriors players. So just keep that in mind. Panthers, we got James Fisher, Harris Moses, Leota, and Scott Sorensen. All 3 were in the last Kiwi squad. Cowboys are led by Peter Hiku and Griffin Niami. They're in second. Both of them were also in the last Kiwi squad. Hiku started. Niami was part of the extended squad. Cronulla Sharks, Ronaldo Mulatalo, Otara's finest. He started on the wing for the Kiwis. And the Sharks also have Braden Hamlin-Uele and Britton Nakora. Britton Nakora actually came off the bench in that test match. Curious to see what happens with Braden Hamlin-Uele. Probably should be part of the Kiwis World Cup squad, I reckon. Melbourne Storm. Obviously, we know what they're all about with Aotearoa Rugby League. They got Jerome Hughes. They got the Bromwich brothers, Jesse Bromwich, Kenny Bromwich, Nelson Asafa-Solomona. Also, shout out to Will Warbrick. He's back scoring tries with the Sunshine Coast Falcons, former Sevens player. Also, shout out Gail Broughton, another former Sevens player who started at fullback for the Parramatta Eels NRLW team. Parramatta Eels, Dylan Brown. He's just blown away all of his previous best mahi from his first 3 seasons. He is in career best form. He's joined by Isaiah Papali'i. You got Maratini Okore. Ofa Hiki Ogden's had a little resurgence, keeping Makahisi Makatoa out of that team. Roosters. Right now, it's just Joey Manu, Jared Waerea-Hargreaves, which I'm fine with because they are absolutely fantastic. Rabbitohs. Unfortunately, the Rabbitohs don't have many Kiwi-NRL players, and also Jackson Paulo had a rough night the other night. Like, sports fans are just weirdos, so I don't know what's doing there. But the Rabbitohs, they're there as well. Broncos, they've just got Timaira Martin and Jordan Ricky at the moment. Also, Daliwes Hoita, he's doing a job. And then I've extended it out to the Raiders in 9th because they're competing for the top 8. And my Kiwi-NRL bias, I kind of want to see the Raiders get in ahead of either the Rabbitohs or Broncos. Kind of because I want to see Joseph Tapine playing finals footy. Also want to see Matthew Timoko playing finals footy and Corey Harawira-Naera as well. Which brings me to this Kiwi-NRL team wildcard that I just whipped up, featuring solely those players. We got Joey Manu at fullback, lacking a winger. So just had to get funky here. We got Timaira Martin playing on the wing. He's not going to do any hard carries. Don't know what he's doing, to be honest, but we just didn't have another winger. Matthew Timoko starting centre. Peta Hiku starting centre. Ronaldo Mulitalo starting winger. Dylan Brown, Jerome Hughes, halves combination. Fisher Harris, Jesse Bromwich, Joseph Tapine, the middle trio. Brandon Smith at hooker. Isaiah Papali'i, Ken Bromwich on the edges. Nelson Asofa Solomona, Moses Leota, Jared Waerea-Hargreaves, and Maratini Okore on the bench. I repeat, a bench of Asofa Solomona, Moses Leota, Jared Waerea-Hargreaves, and Maratini Okore. Niokore did start at centre for the Kiwis against Tonga, but I've got him on the bench here with Matthew Timoko starting at centre. And then the rest of the players, you got Scott Sorensen, Hamlin Uele, Braden Nakora, Griffin Niami, Jordan Ricky, Harawira-Naera. They're all part of a imaginary squad. So, break it down even further. Dylan Brown, Jerome Hughes, they're 2 of the best halves in the competition. I'd make a case Ronaldo Mulitalo is one of the best wingers in the competition. Joey Manu is one of the best players in the NRL, regardless of position. Brandon Smith, again, one of the best players, regardless of position. Fisher Harris, one of the best middle forwards. Joseph Tapine, one of the best middle forwards. Jesse Bromwich, one of the best middle forwards. Isaiah Papali'i, edge forward of the year last year. And if you think Kenny Bromwich isn't good, don't know what to tell you. He's one of the best edge forwards in the NRL, has been for at least 5 years. Asofa Solomona, Moses Leota, Jared Waerea-Hargreaves, Niokore, they all speak for themselves as well. So that is the state of the Kiwi-NRL top 8. And I don't know about you, Wildcard, but that is absolutely ridiculous. So shout out to Aotearoa Rugby League. And many of those players play junior footy in Aotearoa. These aren't, well, there's not many Nathan Fiends around anymore representing Aotearoa. Even someone like Ronaldo Mulitalo, he is an Ellerslie Eagles junior in Auckland. And there's not many other lads like Britton Nakora. Didn't play much junior footy in Aotearoa. But other than that, everyone in that top 17, Moses Leota maybe, he's out of it. Everyone else in that top 17 played junior footy in Aotearoa before moving to Australia. These aren't dudes who left Aotearoa when they were 1 year, 2 years old. These are all dudes who grew up with grassroots rugby league in Aotearoa. So shout out to grassroots rugby league and grassroots sports in general. Wildcard, let's get busy with some questions here. Couple of quick questions for you. Who would you rather have in your team? Who do you think's the better player? These are both skewed towards the Dragons as a Dragons NRL fan yourself. Let's start with Talatau, Amone, or Reece Walsh. Who would you rather have in your team?
Do you mean Junior Amone or? No, I'm taking Talatau on it. He's on a try scoring streak at the moment, so I'm buying high. That might be a risk, that might swing back around in a bad way. But at the moment, he's playing quite well. So, and Reece Walsh is not. Reece Walsh was kind of terrible for the Warriors on the weekend. So there you go.
Next one, Matthew Timoko, starting center. I think he actually plays right center as well, which is useful. Or Zach Lomax.
Oh. I mean, I'm going to have to disappoint you here and pick Zach Lomax, but I can understand why it's a question. Zach Lomax is a frustrating player at times, but gun goal kicker. And I do love that flick pass, even though it hits 2 times out of 5 probably. And the other times it ends up either intercepted or going like a mile forward or ends up in the stands or whatever. When it works, it's good. I wouldn't want to be a winger playing outside him is the only thing.
I kind of think Zach Lomax is just a really mediocre version of Joey Manu. So
that's probably true.
Yeah, it's definitely true.
But that's okay. You can be a mediocre version of Joey Manu and you're still pretty good because Joey Manu is the best center in the game.
But if you're a mediocre version of Joey Manu, that means you're only playing center for the rest of your life and you're never going to play fullback or 6 or stuff.
Yeah.
Your question.
Accurate. Well, I've got some overrated, underrated, properly rated questions to chuck at you. 4 of them about the Blackcaps. Not necessarily things I've got like opinions on, but things like genuine questions that I'm not sure about and trying to figure out in my head. So I'm gonna just dip into your own expertise here for some context. First one: overrated, underrated, properly rated. Michael Bracewell as a bowler.
Properly rated.
Interesting.
I don't think no one's saying Michael Bracewell's
true
the world's greatest bowler.
Yeah.
Like, he's there for his batting and he does a job with the bowling, so I'd say properly rated.
Fair enough. How about the flip side, Mitchell Santner as a batsman?
Underrated.
I'm coming around to that as well, especially the more you see him batting with like an aggressive mindset. It's like that's the balance for him. But anyway, that's a good one. Tom Latham as a captain.
Overrated for the impact on his batting, which we discussed during the tour of England. I feel like, so the impact of Tom Latham's captaincy on his production of runs is underrated, so the captaincy is overrated. Right.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And then the last one is Finn Allen as an international batsman.
I think he is properly rated because there's a fair amount of hype around his batting, which does skew towards T20 cricket, but that hype is balanced out by like a really gritty knock against the West Indies. So I think it just meets in the middle where he is properly rated as a encouraging batting talent.
Tend to agree with that. I think that 90 odd against West Indies probably took him up into that realm.
Just two, like, I'm going to ask you just for the listener, who are the most interesting Kiwi one footballer and one basketball player right now? You don't necessarily need to explain their whole situation. Just give us 2 names, one for football, one for basketball, just to set football or basketball fans off on their own research and tracking over the next couple of days. Who is the most interesting footballer and basketballer from Aotearoa right now?
Well, right now, because we're a few days out from the start of the Tauihi playoffs, and that is a new league and there's heaps of excitement about it, and it's, anytime something good like these like fresh, exciting developments happen, there's always, you got to keep in context the shoulders of the people who came before that you're standing upon kind of thing. I think Micaela Cox is a good one to chuck up here, just for reasons like I mentioned earlier. She was at the 2008 Olympics with the Tall Ferns. She is one of the greats of the Tall Ferns in history, playing semifinals basketball, potentially even final basketball over the weekend. Definitely a player to get down and watch in person if you have the opportunity, but also just to see and enjoy and be like, yeah, that's the legend of the sport who is fully invested in this new league. Football wise, I'm going to go the opposite direction and pick an up and coming player, and I'm going to say what Jacqui Hand is doing with Ireland United in the Finland division, the top Finnish women's football league, has been super impressive. She's got it's her first season as a professional. She's come straight in and just playing big minutes from the outset. She's 5 goals and 3 assists, I think. Was nominated just this week, was nominated for like one of the 3 finalists for midfielder of the month for that entire division, not just for her team, but for across the entire division. She is also an attack-minded player coming through, exactly what the football ferns need, and she's someone who's having some success at the professional level. So Jacqui Hand is the player I'll pick there as a footballer.
Musical jam time here, Wildcard, and I just want to highlight a track from Summer V, V-E-E, Summer V. New track, Key to All Your Love, and that is from Martinuka Records. Pretty groovy, funky, up-tempo jam that feels like springtime. And we're approaching springtime here in Aotearoa. So if you just search up Summer V, Key to All Your Love, you'll have a jolly old time groove into that song. Your musical selections for the week, Wildcard?
There's a new OC song, which I wasn't expecting so soon after an album, but it was for I think it's like a compilation that some record label, I think Kill Rock Stars did it, a record label putting together a compilation of songs inspired by like Dungeons and Dragons, I think is the idea. So there's a cool as OC's a song on that. There's a few others as well. I haven't listened to much of it, but like Micaela Davis had a cool song on that. 3 Kiwi bands to chuck up that have had good singles in the last sort of week or two. One called Mirror Ritual, one called Half Hexagon, one called Recitals, all of which were in the weekly playlist that we did on the website. And then also there's an album by a British singer-songwriter called Naima Bok, who has, I think, Brazilian heritage, and it's kind of in that folky exotica kind of thing where lots of sound. I mean, you're talking about spring sounding music. This also sounds a lot like spring. Couple tracks are a little more autumn than spring, but there you go. Really enjoying that. I can't remember what the album's called, but Naima Bok is who is the artist, and there's a fine selection there of stuff.
That is the Niche Cage Variety Show. We are sharers of, what did you say, folky exotica.
Yeah, that's
what we believe in, folky exotica. That sums up the Niche Cage Variety Show. We'll be back on Thursday with another episode of the Niche Cast. Otherwise, thank you for your audience here with us today. Big it up to yourself. Raise your mana, kia kaha, stay beautiful, chicha.